You are listening to Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda. On this episode, I am delighted to welcome David Guillas back to the show. David played guitar in Propaganda on the supporting cast and Failed States LPs. He currently plays guitar in Agassi, and once upon a time, played guitar in Giant Sons, among others. David is here on the show to discuss his current Kyle project. We have talked about Kyle's Transcontinental Tour in an episode in 2025. He has 2 LPs out now, Transcontinental Tour and World Ship, and has a new EP, Safe, releasing in early 2026. David has been on the podcast many times, and if you search his name in this podcast, his numerous appearances will pop up, including discussions on guitar building, Agassi, and numerous propaganda songs. Please enjoy my conversation about Kyle with David Guillas.
That solar eclipse don't happen from the other side, where I would grow to hell is other people. When you're locked inside, let me out of here. So many separate spheres, freezing drops, return to earth. Keep safe my papers till I'm gone. Safeguard my papers until the last dawn. Currencies and names. My inventory of insecurities and claims.
David Guillas, welcome to Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda.
Hi, thanks for having me back.
It has been a while since you've been here. I actually checked this morning to see when the last time you were here was, and it was when you and Ryan were here in January of 2024 to talk about Agassi Pulse 1D, when you both appeared on the show together. So how have you been since then? It's been 2 years.
2 years, yeah. It's been an adventure the last 2 years, to say the least. Been some times. It feels like more than 2 years, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a very strange situation. What is the status of Agassi currently? Just to keep that thought going.
We're still going hard. We get together almost every week, writing new songs, and I don't know, tentative plans to maybe start thinking about recording at some point. But this is how we operate. We just kind of take it as it comes and when it feels right.
Excellent. So you also have been on the podcast to talk in depth about guitar building. You were here quite a long time ago to talk about your guitar building that you do for Strange Earth Guitars. And you used to have a Substack where you'd write about some of your builds. That disappeared. You don't really update the Instagram anymore as well. What is the current status of your guitar building operation?
Kind of in limbo at the moment. The last couple of years have been just tough and busy, so I found myself going down the music path more so than the building path, because it's only so much time in a day or in a week. So I'll get back to it. I miss building guitars. It's just not really the season of life for it at the moment.
I love it. Okay, so the reason we're here today is Kyle, and this is so exciting for me. I have really enjoyed featuring on this podcast some of the side projects that that everybody associated with Propaganda does. I really enjoyed talking to Sue Lynn recently about Faith in the Doghouse. I really enjoyed having Chris on some time back about A Catastrophic Break with Consensus Reality, and the record you actually were on that playing Voivod's Panorama. But in January of 2025, Chris posted on his Patreon that one day you just randomly, low key inquired about a vocal microphone. And then months later, you were like, oh, I have an album coming out. And so Chris was so funny. He's like, classic beef. He didn't even mention it until it was done. So that turned out to be January of 2025's Trans and Continental Tour.
Yeah.
So I won't really ask you to recap that entire album. We talked about it on the podcast when it came out, which is, I love it. It's great. I was actually listening to it again this week for the first time in a bit. But I'd love to know about the origin of your songwriting that involves vocals and how that started to come into form for you. Where did this songwriting for vocals start to take shape for you as a songwriter?
Well, I've always written songs. I've always with the idea of writing lyrics and singing, but it's never really come to fruition beyond just my couch in my living room. Uh, Confidence wasn't there, and I couldn't find my voice, so to speak, and I never thought I would. I kind of just had this narrative, like, I don't do that. But I guess the older I get, and certain experiences accrue in you or whatever, and you get to the point. Luckily, I got to the point where you just realize I got to get out of my own way here. Life will be better if I do that. And so that was kind of like the impetus of it. I got out of my own way, started writing songs, didn't really know where it was going to go. And next thing I know, I'm hitting the button on Bandcamp, and it's out there. And it's an uncomfortable feeling, mostly an uncomfortable feeling for me to do that. But I guess it's more enjoyable than it is uncomfortable because here we are again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was a big surprise to me because I would always associate you with instrumental music, Giant Sons, and then your writing that you did with Propagandy, and then Agassi and Spawn songs, all instrumental, so much of it across the board. So what was like the original impetus for like what kicked it off? Like, do you have like a first song that kind of really was
Yeah.
the confidence builder?
Funny enough, yes, I wrote a song for my daughter. The Spawn song things is all for her, and we had this stupid idea about a year and a half ago because we crackers and hummus is like the greatest thing on earth. There needs to be a song about it, and so we wrote that song. And it's not my finest artistic moment, but it was just I loved every single second of that, and that was kind of what hooked me. I want to do more of that.
That's awesome. Okay, so give me a gear rundown for what your home recording setup was like for Trans and Continental Tour. How did this like, I want to know what the beginning point was for your home recording journey.
Well, for years I've just been dabbling on my laptop with GarageBand. When I first discovered GarageBand, whenever that would have been, 2008.
2000, yeah, 2005, 6. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
I've had it for years.
yeah, way back then I discovered it because even before then I've always like the first time I had a friend who rented a cassette 4 track back in the 90s, and I was like, oh, let me see that, and I borrowed it for a night, and I just was so hooked just to be the ability to write songs and to multi-track and kind of build things all by myself because my preferred state of existence is alone.
Mm.
These things by myself. And that just evolved to GarageBand, and I've used that for years just to demo. And then I just started writing these songs, and I just thought, fuck it, this is the equipment I have at my disposal. I'm not going to go spend a bunch of money on this stupid project. I'm just going to record it on GarageBand and be done with it. So very lo-fi, I suppose. I kind of just, the drums are programmed. A lot of it was not ideal in terms of like the music I prefer to create, which is, in a band setting.
Hmm.
But it was what it was. I did it on my own, and it never would have been done at all if I didn't just, surrender to that particular process.
Yeah, so you did the bass and the guitars and all the vocals and everything. So everything on the first Kyle record, Trans and Continental Tour, that's all you, right?
Everything down to the images and the cassettes, all every last damn step I did.
Tell me about the cassette tape. I have a copy. I love it. I've gotten kind of into tapes this year, and so tell me about your tape creating journey.
I mean, I love tapes. I just have such nostalgia for carrying around my little briefcase full of tapes, and just the process of putting that tape in. It just, I guess I kind of romanticize it in my own imaginings. So I just thought I want to do a tape. And because the whole project was necessarily kind of lo-fi, because I did it on my laptop, I just thought it was kind of the perfect medium.
Hmm.
And it was just a fun project to keep myself busy in a way that made me feel good. That's what this is all about. It's just this is stuff that makes me feel good.
Yeah. How did Chris get involved on the first Kyle record?
He was not involved in the first Kyle record.
Did he loan you any gear? Did he do any of the mixing or anything like that?
No, no, nothing. I bought an SM58, just a real basic cheap vocal mic, and that was it. That's the only gear I think aside from my guitars and whatnot. No, but that was on.
Fantastic.
He didn't help me at all.
Cool. Yeah, so that record, we talked about on the podcast. Did you have a chance to listen to what we said about that record?
I listened to some, yeah. I was like, and I was really touched. I just thought, wow, I really appreciate that there's people that would put effort into trying to interpret it. And so, like, really, I was honored and touched by the things you guys said.
Yeah, we had a really nice time with that. Tell me a little bit about the cover artwork too, because the welding mask has sort of become kind of a thing for you later on since Kyle came into existence. So tell me a little bit about that cover art.
Yeah, they're all just sort of inside jokes for myself, I suppose. Not joke, but so the cover art comes. It's just basically a screenshot from news footage from February 26, 1979. There was a total lunar solar eclipse, and the best spot to view it in the entire continent was basically here in Winnipeg.
Mm.
And that was the exact same moment I was being born. I was being born during that eclipse. And so for me, it's just kind of this silly pseudo poetic idea of like the beginning of me. And so it's just kind of me pondering my context in this world. And then there's that kid wearing the welder's mask. I just love the image of that. And I just thought, because Kyle is kind of like a mask itself for me. I kind of slip into this skin so I can be brave. And so that kind of is what that welder's mask sort of represents for me, is just I'm gonna hide in here while I try to communicate to the world.
Nice. Were you pleased with the reception of Transcontinental Tour? Because I bought a cassette like immediately when they went on sale, so I was like, I got to get this.
Yeah, definitely. I don't have any delusions of grandeur over here. I don't, So if anybody shows interest, I'm honored, and yeah, I was super pleased that a number of people were interested and checked it out.
Could you ever see yourself playing these songs live, or is this a purely home experiment?
For now, it's a home experiment, and it's just, you know, it's a project that makes me feel good. That said, I've been in bands for longer than I wasn't in bands in my life, and
Hmm.
I love being in a band. Agassi is a passion. I just love being in that band with Ryan and Derek. So, anyways, yeah, I could see myself performing these songs, but that would take a massive leap of all sorts of things. The efforts to bang those songs into shape so I could perform them live, and not to mention just assembling a band, and like that's all effort that
Yeah.
it's not in the plans currently, but you never know.
Not impossible, but at the moment, improbable.
At the moment, it's just not part of the plan. I'm quite content it's just like with Agassi, we're quite content just to write songs and record them once in a while. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, well, and you guys got to open up for Dead Bob, so you had some no means no fun there as well, which is, man, if you're gonna play a show playing
Yeah.
with John Wright, that's the one.
And we've also opened for Russian Circles, another one of our favorite bands. We've opened for Propaganda. We've been very lucky as Agassi, the shows we have played. So
Yeah. Well, funny story about Russian Circles too. When I was in high school back in St. Louis, Missouri, the drummer for Russian Circles played in a punk band in St. Louis called Dig Dug. And then he was in another punk band called Too Young the Hero. So I have been aware of Dave Turnkrantz's drumming since I was a kid, and he was like one of my drumming local heroes. Like imagine going to see Propaganda in like 1995 and watching Jord. That's what Dave Turnkrantz from Russian Circles was for me. So I'm glad that you know about that band because that band and I go way, way back in my life.
Big
That
fan.
guy's amazing. Yeah. Okay, so w- you really surprised me here because I was really just kind of enjoying Trans and Continental Tour and enjoying the new Propaganda record At Peace and then enjoying Sue Lynn's Faith in the Doghouse. So like 2025 for me was like the best Propaganda year ever because all of you are releasing and recording music. I saw Propaganda live a couple times. And I was just like, man, 2025 for me as a fan of all of you could not have been better. And then out of nowhere, you drop this brand new album, World Ship. And I want to know about the record in a second, but first I want to start like maybe at the impetus, which is Kim Stanley Robinson. Um, Tell me it first of all, is Kim Stanley Robinson the impetus for World Ship? Do I have that right?
It's the whole sort of narrative arc is very loosely based on the narrative arc of Aurora by Kim Stanley Robinson. I
Hmm.
like a loose structure, but that's almost about as far as it goes. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk just about Stan's work for a second here. Tell me about your fandom of Kim Stanley Robinson just as an author.
I first got exposed to him, I don't know, 90s or early 2000s through Chris, the Red Mars trilogy. And it's just, I've always been a sci-fi guy. And I think Kim Stanley Robinson's, for me and my particular tastes in science fiction, is just the pinnacle. I don't know if there's ever going to be an author I enjoy more. Um, and Aurora is just a really beautiful story of leaving the earth behind, but then basically having to return.
Hmm. Yeah, the I'm reading it right now. I'm about 350 pages into it. I promised you that I would finish it before we talked, but it's a very big, long book and it's quite a journey and I'm just enjoying kind of going through it at my own speed. I'm very far into it. I've gotten through like some planetary settlement attempts and I've gotten through some conflict on the ship. I don't want to be do super spoilers for listeners out there, but it's so good because and for me, this is a big deal because I was only into Kim Stanley Robinson's climate fiction books, like Ministry for the Future, New York 2140. That's kind of where I was reading of his, and they're very dense,
Yeah.
right? And they're very like policy oriented in a lot of ways. And then when I read Aurora, I was like, oh man, this is so much smoother of a read for me. It feels less taxing and laborious as a reader, and just does what I love about really great novels. Do you have any preference on his strands of writing that he does?
Yeah, like that's his thing when it comes to like hard science fiction, meaning like he basically extrapolates from current scientific knowledge and kind of projects into the future. So he doesn't get very fantastical, generally speaking. Everything's kind of like very carefully drawn from the present and sort of extrapolating into the future. And so sometimes some of that can be for me tedious. It's a bit of a slog to get through books like those climate. I actually kind of skipped some of those climate ones. I did read Ministry for the Future. That one was tedious to get through, but it was worth it. I thought it really had a kind of a payoff to it.
Hmm.
But my favorites of his are Aurora, Galileo's Dream, books like that where he does that. It's rooted in hard science, but he gets a bit more imaginative. 2312 is another one because he's projecting kind of far into the future. It's
Hmm.
a bit more playful, I find, with his imagination. Similarly, he has another book called Shaman, which he goes in the other direction. He projects to the past,
Mm.
to like Ice Age, and kind of is a bit imaginative in the way he imagines life back then. It's yeah, those are, I love it when he's a bit more playful with his imagination.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Shaman too, because I had never heard that one, and that one was recommended to me next in my library app because I got the Aurora and then it sent me to Shaman. So I'm a little I'm that one's on my radar as well. Okay, so let's chat about World Ship. So in the last, like Transcontinental Tour is only a year old. So after that was released and after you made that tape, where do these new songs start coming in?
Kind of right away, right as I was finishing Transcontinental Tour. Lots of things were happening in my life. My mom was in the hospital. Just lots of family stuff and responsibilities, and it's just the songwriting just kind of became a form of therapy, for lack of a better way of putting it. I kind of became obsessed. It just felt like any moment I have where I'm not responsible for someone in my life, I'm doing that, and it's just kind of it took on a kind of an escapist um, kind of thing. And the whole idea of worldship is kind of escapist. I just kind of wished I could get away from these elements in my life that were dragging me down. And I wanted to just, so that was part of the impetus, was just sort of escapism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the songs on the record too, it's such a wide array of sounds. Like there's one song on the record called Threads, which sounds like it could be like a Turnstile song from 2019. And then there's another one, I think it's Unique Skull, where there's like it's almost like Band of Horses acoustic guitar picking and stuff like that, like Fleet Foxes almost. And it reminds me of like that mid 2000s sub pop stuff. And there's a huge array of sounds on here. What was inspiring you musically when you were writing the music for it? Because it's so expansive.
Just everything, I love music. There's no preconceived idea. I just picked up the guitar and wrote and kind of, like I said, got out of my own way. So I just, forgive me if this sounds kind of corny, but I kind of just would listen and pay attention to the song. And what's this song about? Let's do that. And
Mhm.
trying to sound like one thing. Like I don't think much about this kind of stuff, but I used to be the guitar player in Propaganda, so people probably have this idea of me that like that's all I do, and that's, I don't know, that's just part of what I've done. you know,
Yeah.
I draw influences from everywhere.
So, I know that there's no longer the programmed drums on this record. Where does the real drums come from? Who is playing on this record, and how did the drums get recorded?
My buddy Ryan Nash, who he plays bass in Agassi, he's just sort of a multi instrumentalist guy, and he's got his own home studio set up. And I should say I don't really have a problem per se with programming the drums. Like
Yeah.
these are all just tools. Whether you have a drum kit or a guitar or a computer, uh, they're just tools. And if I may quote Rush for a moment, all this machinery making modern music can still be open hearted. And I think that says it all. I think it's so true. So I have no problem with the programmed drums. However, I just thought, if I'm going to do this again, I want to just do a couple of different things. And so I reached out to him, and he graciously said, yeah, I'll totally do that, even though it's a ton of work. So I'd send him songs, like Pro Tools sessions, and he kind of learn the songs and play them at home and record them and then send the song back to me. So we didn't even really get in a room together at all. It was just kind of sent back and forth. Um, and that's kind of how that worked out.
Man, Ryan is a hell of a drummer, isn't he?
Yeah, that's when I first met him 25 years ago. That's how I met him. He was drumming in a band. I always thought he was just a drummer, but no, he plays it all. I think guitar is probably his preferred instrument.
Yeah, I was shocked whenever I saw Ryan's name pop up on the credits for this record because I've only ever talked to him as the bassist of Agassi. I know he's in Union Stockyards, but I didn't know he played drums at all. So when I saw that, I was like, "Is it really? It's not Derek. It's Ryan. Crazy, very
And
exciting."
I asked Ryan, he's got his studio set up, and he's got, people should check out. He's got it's called Pack Rat Activities, and he's got a whole bunch of music on there. He's always conjuring shit up, so people should check him out.
Love you, Ryan. Shout out to Ryan. Ryan, I love when Ryan's path crosses with mine. It's always a good chat. So what are we hearing on this record gear wise for the gear nerds out there?
Well, I'm just using my guitars that I've built.
Hmm.
Primarily, I've got a guitar I built that has P90 pickups, and another one that's more recent. I call it Blue. It's a 7 string that I use in Agassi, and I've got a bass that I built It's kind of like a P bass style. For drums, I don't know what drums Ryan has. Couldn't tell you that.
So the you mentioned the bass, and the bass is very good on this record. There's a song where it's like this. It's very bass solo. It do 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 do. Like it's just isolated bass a lot of the time. And I was like, man, I feel like I could almost hear like Rob Wright coming in and singing here. Um, and I don't remember exactly what song it was, but but it's really really cool. How did the bass take shape for you? Have you always dabbled in bass, or is this kind of a new
Yeah,
frontier for you?
I kind of always had. When I was a teenager, I actually picked up this really cheap fretless bass, which was a stupid choice for someone who's trying to learn how to play bass. But I've always been interested in bass, and actually, I find myself now when I'm recording, I almost enjoy playing bass the most.
Mm,
Um, I couldn't say why. I think I just love the low frequencies, but I also love the opportunity for melody that is in the bass. Whereas in guitar, I've always been a chord guy. I just love chords and different voicings, and not so much a lead person with the melodies. And so I think that's maybe why I love playing bass so much right now.
yeah. Do you have like an array of effects and pedals and stuff like that that you used on this record too?
I do have lots of effects, but I those are for Agassi. I've tried when I was early on, just figuring out what I was going to do. I'd set up. I have a little amp and kind of got my everything set up, and I mic it up. But I ended up just gravitating towards modeled amps because I'm not precious about any of this stuff. I got a sound that sounded good to me, and I can record it when my family's home. Because my setup is in the room I'm sitting in. It's just in our living room. I've got a little. I call it my sad corner because it's just the coldest corner of my house. Not a lot of space and no isolation from the family, which is kind of how I prefer it. Because it's just nice to have them around, even when I'm being creative. So I have to be conscious of sound.
Are you just like running it straight in like your amp your guitar like straight into like a Scarlett Focusrite or something like that on your desk? Do you just have like something that you're running it directly into?
Well, I got this tube preamp. The what's it called? Warm MPX. It's like a tube preamp, so it gives it a little bit of that analog warmth before it goes into. I've got a Volt 2 digital interface.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, I'm running my stuff right now into this Focusrite I've got on my desk here, and it's always kind of fun to mess around with. Okay, so I know that Chris was involved in this one. What was the mixing and the mastering process like for you guys?
I never intended. I just thought I was going to do all that again myself. But I also upgraded my game. I bought myself kind of a cheap computer, and I got Pro Tools, um, which is far superior than GarageBand. So it's a step up in quality. And I have a bit of experience with Pro Tools, and I actually took an audio engineering course like 25 years ago. But I haven't dabbled in Pro Tools in 10, well, since we recorded Failed States. So since then, so it was a bit of a learning curve, and I was gonna just do it all myself. I was mixing it, and I actually asked Chris, I'm doing this project. Do you mind if you have a listen and just tell me, like, am I close with this mix? And he actually just invited me over to listen because he's got a better setup with nice monitors. And as soon as he hit play, I just could tell, like, oh, where's the bass? Like, nothing sounded good. And I went home just thinking, okay, I got to fix this. And then, long story short, I just thought, yeah, I wonder if Chris would be interested in helping me. So I asked him, and he said, yeah. So, it basically took the form of I went over there a few times. We sit together and make some moves together, but largely him just kind of on his own. I'd give him some notes, and he'd send me stuff, and I'd send him some more notes, and it's kind of back and forth. It went over quite a few months because I think he was on tour in between, and I was busy with work, and so it took some time, but uh, eventually we got there.
I would love to know about the recurrence of skulls on the record. What is the deal with skulls on the album?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Part of it is, uh, yeah. So during the writing of all this in May, we lost our dog, our dear boy George, and that's just devastating. And a couple of days later, I'm back to work, and near where I work, my school, right downtown Winnipeg. There's this little forested area near the Forks, and I tend to go walk through there because no one bugs me in there. And as I was walking there, 2 days after we lost George, I'll show you.
Mm.
Found this. I found a skunk skull.
Oh, wow.
And I just was like, this is so beautiful. And
Yeah.
I brought it home. And I don't know, I guess at the risk of sounding like a pretentious asshole, there's just, this existence is fucked up. And, people come and go. We lose people. And all this is happening inside our skulls. And it just feels like we're alone in this, but we're not. And that's just my attempt at grappling with this season I'm in my life where it's just everything's fucking hard. And I'm just grateful I've got other skulls in my life that I love and that love me. And that's about, that's about all I
Yeah.
have.
Well, I was sorry to hear about George. I am also in the process of saying goodbye to my own dog, who has advanced lung cancer and is only going to be here for another matter of days. So that really hits me right now, big time. So trust me, I understand fully how you feel. Those special creatures, man, they just they make a difference and an impact on our lives. And I know that George has come up on this podcast in the past, so shout out to George and shout out to Tyson. These very very good boys. I will miss them. I will miss him very much. So yeah. So tell me a little bit about the artwork for the record, because it's very cool, but it's very neat to hear. But I want to hear the story behind it.
Yeah, that kind of came along late in the game. I had a different plan that, it's funny how plans often reveal themselves to be totally stupid. And the plan I originally had was very stupid. And so I was just searching for ideas. And often when I need ideas, I just talk with Mandy, my partner. She's a very artistic, creative person, artist in her own right. And anyway, her and my daughter took this, it's called a solograph. It's basically you take a pinhole camera, which is homemade. They made it themselves out of like a tin can, and you place it somewhere that's kind of facing south, and it's a very low exposure time. It sounds like I know what I'm talking about. I have really no idea, but it takes a long time for the exposure to happen. And what it does is it basically traces the sun across the sky, which is just so neat to see that, and it kind of gives you this different perspective of us here on this planet. And I just thought it really worked as an image. And I love that I could include Mandy and Catherine on this because part of this project kind of took on a life where I just realized like I just want to include all these other skulls that I love. So that's why I asked Chris, and he was willing to help, and Ryan, of course, and then Mandy and Catherine there, and then Derek. He designed it, the way it's all kind of like composed on the page there. So
Nice. Did Derek do like the layout for the text and everything?
yeah, that's a better way to put it. He did the design and the layout. Yeah, I gave him the picture, and he just did his magic.
Amazing. So I know that you've got another project in the works, for Kyle, and you are just it's very funny to me that you were in Propaganda, which is a notoriously slow band to release new music, and here you are, and you're probably going to catch up to their entire career of 40 years of output in just a couple of years if you keep going with Kyle at this pace. But preview what listeners can expect from you in the coming weeks, months, maybe year.
I've got an EP, 4 song EP coming out very soon. I've just got a few more final tweaks to make, and then it'll be out. Um, this one's this one's maybe more in line with that unique skull song you mentioned. It's more acoustic based, although I definitely go in on the production because that's fun and I enjoy doing that. And beyond that, I don't know. I'm not sure how much more Kyle has to say at the moment. Um, there's other things like I said, I'm kind of itching to get back into the workshop and just build stuff because I miss that because building stuff doesn't have to mean anything. I'm kind of petering out on creating songs that mean something. I'm starting to get sick of myself a little bit, so that's kind of why I put stuff out there, even though it's uncomfortable to share. Because my impulse is just like, why would I put this out there? No one needs to hear this. But by putting it out there, at least I can put a punctuation mark on it and I can move on and say it's done.
Hmm.
So that,
Um, did anybody else appear on this new EP, or is it all you?
this one I return to just solo me because as much as I love working with others, I also just really value just being by myself and plunking away at something alone. So uh, I might return to doing something collaboratively again. I'd love actually. Like I've got there's people I would love to work with, and we'll see if anything materializes. But I also just love working by myself.
Hmm. Yeah, I totally get it. This podcast and projects like that are just me sitting at a computer by myself in silence, like, altering audio files for hours, days sometimes with some of our bigger episodes. And so I totally get that understanding. And it's also all on your own timeline. You can do stuff whenever you want, whenever you get a moment, and there's no delay on releasing stuff by tying in a bunch of other people. It's like, how fast can I do this? Oh, it's done. Okay. When am I going to release it? How about today? Who cares, right?
That's what I enjoy. I'm not caught up in. I mean, I don't do music for a living anymore, and there is some freedom in that. Uh, I can just put something out. It will ultimately just disappear into the horrid abyss of the internet, and that's okay.
hmm Well, David, I'm so grateful to you for checking in and updating us on the show about what you're up to. And it's been a blast hanging out. We haven't been able to get together for a couple years because I love having a reason to get together. So I'm glad that we were able to recap both Kyle full lengths and the forthcoming EP. What's the name of the new EP? Is it Birds?
Safe.
Oh, Safe, right. Okay. Is there birds on the cover? Where am I getting birds from?
There's birds on the cover. It's an old Audubon drawing or a painting or whatever engraving. Yeah.
Do you have any interpretations for Safe, or are you going to let the listeners decide that for themselves?
I guess let the listeners, part of the reason I enjoy writing lyrics is because I am totally a fool when it comes to expressing myself verbally. So it's lyrics are an attempt to say what I really want to say.
Any physical plans for World, Ship, or Safe as far as physical formats go?
Maybe I wrestle with that because the last thing the world needs is more petrochemicals in the world. And like, who am I? Like, why? I don't know if I justify doing a run of vinyl or cassettes. On the other hand, I prefer listening to music on a physical format. So I don't know. I'm a walking contradiction, and time will tell which side I land on.
Well, you just human in that regard. That's just how we all are. We all have our walking contradiction moments. But yeah, well, great. Well, David Gillis, are you doing any socials? Do you have a website at all that you wanted to direct people towards, or refresh people's memories on like the Agassi website or anything like that?
Yeah, there's an Agassi website, I think, and Instagram. Uh, I've created a Kyle Instagram account. I'm barely on there, but I just thought because I also have my Strange Earth account, which was used to be for guitar building, which I don't really use. So I thought, well, I guess I'll create this Kyle thing. So
Yeah.
check me out there. Once in a while, I'll post. I'm also working on a soundtrack for a friend. He's making this movie about outdoor rinks.
Oh, Randy.
Randy, yeah, you've had Randy on the show, I think.
Absolutely. A couple times.
So that's been fun, and I'll probably post stuff on there as things emerge about.
Well, now that Randy came up, we probably should mention that Randy did some video work for you for the new Kyle record. Do you want to say anything about that before we conclude?
Yeah, that's right. Like, cause I'm doing some work for him for his movie, and so it's I love doing this kind of thing where you just trade your what you're able to do with each other and leave money out of the equation as much as possible. So yeah, he made a couple lyric videos for me, and I think he might make another one for me because it's fun. I know lyric videos are usually a promotional tool, but that's not really how I use it. I think it's kind of cool. He interprets the lyrics and he puts something together, and I think it's just kind of cool. So you can find those on the Kyle Instagram, Kyle Music, I think it's called.
Yeah. Well, and your Bandcamp too. It's Lekyle, LEKYLE.bandcamp.com for people that may have a difficult time finding that just in a Bandcamp search. But it's also on streaming like
Yep.
Apple Music and everything now too. So people can find it there. I've been listening to it on Apple Music because I was like, oh, maybe I can get him some royalty payments someday. So.
And thanks for the plug. I'm obviously I'm not very good at remembering how to find anything I put out there. So thank you.
All right. Well, David, thank you so much for joining me again for your numerous appearances on Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda. It's always a pleasure to catch up with you and, let the listeners know that even though you're not in propaganda anymore, you're still out there rocking and doing your thing. And it's always a pleasure to hang out. So thank you for being here.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks for having me.
To